Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Alex Perez here with English Sports Center, and we're out here on the Severn River. And today we're going to teach you guys some techniques, how-tos, and where to look for pickerel. So we're going to be obviously fishing for pickerel. We're going to show you guys where to use all those techniques and how to utilize them to catch pickerel, to make it easier for you guys, to be able to catch some fish and understand how these things work. So stay tuned, and we're going to show you guys. Alright guys, so the first thing I want to show you is one of the most effective lures to use out here in the tidal rivers. Anywhere you are in the state of Maryland and other places too, but specifically where we are right now, anywhere from the Severn, Magothy, Patapsco rivers, this is a great lure that you can catch different types of fish. But today, this is one of my top pickerel lures for tidal pickerel. And as you can see, that's a jig head there with a 3-inch to 4-inch paddle tilt, and the secret, it's that little blade there. That's really going to add more vibration and flash, especially on this stained, greenish water around here. So, places to use this, it's pretty much what we have here. As you can see, we're in a little bit deeper water. We're ranging anywhere from 8 to 4 foot of water, and sometimes shallower. But what we're doing here on the boat is we're staying out a little bit deep. We're going to be casting along these docks and structure like the laydown over there, and we're just going to be running this bait right through the pilings. Now, 2 ways you can do this. You can reel in just a straight retrieve, or you can actually pause it and give it a couple jigs here and there as you're reeling it in. Now, remember, this jigs, you can actually change the actual weight. You can go from anywhere from 1/8, 3/16, and for example right here, that's a 1/4 ounce. There's plenty of colors and sizes and different types of looks. Right now we're using a GI jig by Mr. Lenny, and we're using one of those elastic minnows on that white pearl color. There's different colors, different weights that you can use to match whatever situation you're in. Key things with the jig heads: match the depth. Right now we're fishing a little deeper water, so we're going to be using a 1/4 ounce, since we're fishing, like I mentioned, anywhere from 8 to 4 foot of water. We want to keep it right in the middle. If we were a little bit shallower, we will downsize to a 3/16 to 1/8 if we were pretty much in 4 to 1 foot of water. Colors. You're going to hear this today a lot. It all depends on the water clarity. The more clear water you have in the area that you're fishing, natural colors are going to work the best. White, smoky shad, translucent colors, pearls, purples, but once you get into dirtier water situations, your brighter colors like chartreuse, purple, like black and blue, all those bright and dark colors will be a lot better. So we're going to go over and teach you guys how to use this. Nice little guy here. So, another lure we have here, which is one of the classic, lures that works all the time, and not just for pickerel, but for a lot of different types of fish. It's a Mepps. So it's an inline spinner. There's a lot of different brands. This happens to be a Mepps number 3 gold blade, no bucktail or nothing on the treble hook. So I personally like just a plain Mepps with nothing on it. Some people like other things, but the main key to focus here is that it's an inline spinner, and what that allows you to do is cast them in pretty shallow water. And when the fish are actually in shallower water around structure, and even mid water column, they really kind of like the vibration. That's the biggest key. There's silver colors too. There's a lot of different types of blades. The main rule of thumb is Semi-stained water, cloudy days you go to a gold blade, and clear water, actual sunny days you go to the more natural silver blade. Those are really the two colors you want to use. They go up in sizes and down in sizes too, so you can also match that up depending on the profile of the bait fish that you have around you, and also pretty much depending on the weight. The reason why we're using the number 3 right now, it's because this guy's probably around just a little bit less than a quarter ounce. I would probably say about 3/16 of an ounce, and we can cast it in about 2 foot of water to 4 foot of water, and just bring it right on top of any kind of structure we have. Right now, as you can see, there's some laydowns here. We're going to cast in there and see if we can catch a fish. Really what you want to do is get it out there, cast closer to the structure, and then usually I keep my rod tip down and just work it slow to start off. Just enough where you're keeping it off the bottom. You can play with the speed just like any other lure and try to see if you can get strikes in different speeds. And sometimes you can pause it and then pick it up again, and you can enhance the strike doing that. The MEPS works great, like I said, in all these situations. Right now we have a semi-cloudy day. We're fishing around all this structure here, and we'll see if we get a bite with this. So, one great way of catching pickerel is using bait, live bait in general. Minnows are going to be your top bait around here to use if you just want to sit back, relax, or if you have kids and you just want to have them sit on the pier and throw some minnows out there. So, there's a couple ways you can rig your minnows. The one way we're going to show you, it's a slip bobber rig that you can utilize for a lot of different things, not just pickerel, but once again you can use it for perch and all kinds of stuff like that. And of course, fishing in this general area here, especially in the Severn and the Magothy, you're going to be able to catch pickerel and perch, and who knows what else you're going to be catching with minnows. So let me show you guys how to rig this up. You're going to have your line. This is your leader line or mono, whatever line's coming out of your reel. Now, this is a bobber stopper. We do have them at the store here, and the little bobber stopper is what's going to keep the actual bobber from moving around, and this is what you're going to use to adjust the depth. So the one thing you're going to do is you grab your mono or whatever line you have, run it through that little opening there. You can see it there, right through there. Now, get a few inches of line through there. Now what you're going to do is you're actually going to grab your piece and just pull it through. Just like that. It's like magic. Now it's on there. So, I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's your bobber stopper. And as you can see, I can move it up and down the line. Just like that. Now, second most important thing is your bobber. We do sell and have different kinds of bobbers. You can use whatever size is necessary to keep your minnow afloat, because you can actually use different size jigs. But your weighted part goes down. You actually insert the line through there. There we go. And now we can adjust it. Now keep a hold of this line, because you don't want that, those things flying out, going everywhere. But your last component here is going to be a jig. Once again, there's a lot of different ways to rig this. This is my favorite way to doing it, and it's put in a small 1/16, 1/8 of an ounce jig. There's marabou jigs, feather jigs, all kinds of different jigs that you can put on there. Whatever you like. The biggest thing with this, and why we're utilizing a small jig to put a minnow on there, is one, is going to act as our weight to keep the minnow down, but as the minnow's moving around, it's actually going to be adding flash. So that flash is going to attract some of those fish. So we're going to do a regular improved clinch knot in here. So run it through your jig. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Run it back down through your main loop. Run it back up through the second loop. And then make sure you always wet your knot. Pull it through and cut your tag in. So now we have our jig, bobber, and your bobber stopper, which is going to help adjust that. And the biggest thing with this is when you're casting, this slips down to the jig, so you don't have that much line hanging around flying behind you when you're casting. And this pulls down when it hits the water, and it goes to the designated loop, just like that. And now you're ready to catch a fish. Now, one last thing. It's going to be our most important thing here. And that's the minnows. For pickerel, I like to use like a mid-sized minnow. Trying to get away. But I'm going to use a mid-sized minnow. And we're going to run this hook right through both of the lips. Just like that. And now we're ready to catch some pickerel. So let's try that out. Alright. It's a nice one. Alright, so one other bait that's pretty much a really successful bait for pickerel, especially once we get into the colder months, middle of winter. If there's no ice in the water, this is what I recommend to use. And it's really a technique-driven bait, but you can catch them even just by straight reeling it in. And those are jerk baits. Right here we have two of my favorite baits, X-Wrap and the new Ripstop. Now, how do you use them? You want to target structure again in a little bit deeper water. The one thing with jerk baits is that there's shallow water jerk baits and deeper water jerk baits. Your shallow water jerk baits are going to range anywhere from they'll dive down from anywhere 2 to 4 foot of water, and then you have deeper ones that will dive down all the way to 6, 8 foot of water. Now, a lot of people like to throw them in ranges anywhere from shallow to deep. With pickerel, these things are a little bit of a fish that can move anywhere from shallow to deep water. You really want to have both of them. Besides that, line, some guys prefer to use fluorocarbon because it is dense and it sinks and it helps that jerkbait sink down deeper. But that's only if you're really trying to get that jerkbait down deeper. You can just use it like we all do here, and it's braid to fluorocarbon, a little bit longer fluorocarbon leader, and that's all you really need. Yeah, but like I said, it's a technique thing, and we'll show you how to do that here in a second. Alright, so while using a jerkbait, what you want to do is obviously target your area here. Right now we're fishing around this dock. So you want to cast it out, crank it down to where it gets to the designated depth. Once you do that, this is where the name of jerkbait comes from. Jerk, let it sit there. Snap, snap, let it sit there. You can play around with how long you actually let that jerkbait sit. Now, with all these jerkbaits, there's different types. For example, right now we're using suspending jerkbaits. So that means that as we are still, they actually sit there. They do not sink, they do not float, they sit on that water depth, that designated water depth. And that's what creates that strike. Because as soon as you start to reel again, that bait's gonna dart. So that's what you're doing. And what happens is when the fish are a little bit sluggish this time of the year, giving it that pause and sometimes waiting a little bit longer will pretty much enhance the bite, because those fish will follow it, see it, look at it, and as soon as you twitch it, they'll bite it. So that's why jerkbaits can be great in days where your bites are super slow, it's a slow day, and you're trying to, you know, get some fish on the boat. And they just produce fish because they mimic bait fish so well with the profile, and the way you're making them move through the water will actually, you know, make it seem like a dead shad or an injured yellow perch. So there's unlimited, you know, ways of using these things. A lot of them come with that little feather hook in the back, where when you stop it, it actually opens up, and it kind of makes like a little pulsing motion, and that can also attract, you know, fish to bite it. So that's how you use a jerk bait. And like I said, pretty much targeting whatever structure you're doing, and making sure that you know how deep your jerk bait goes down. It's critical, because you don't want to cast it to the shoreline where it's 2 foot of water and this thing dives to 6 foot and it just gets snag on the bottom. So those are the key tips when using a jerk bait, and they work great for pickerel. So we just got this pickerel here with the jerk bait here, Rapala ripstop. And one important thing to always have, especially while, you know, using, well, pretty much fishing for pickerel, is the fish grips. We're gonna put this guy back here. 2 things you must have while pickerel fishing is any kind of fish grip, because obviously pickerel have lots of teeth. They're sharp. They have lots of them. You do not want to hold those fish like bass or anything. They'll just tear up your fingers. And also, you don't want to grab them really, hold them out too long outside of the water. But fish grips, especially when you're using treble hooks, and pliers. Having a nice set of pliers is gonna make your life a lot easier, especially while you're using, you know, some of these baits that have treble hooks. Makes it a lot easier to take off. Keep control of the fish with your fish grippers, and those 2 things are the things you must have things to have out there on the water. All right, guys. I hope you guys, you know, learned some stuff from all the how-tos that we just did today. Showing you guys, you know, just a couple things that we do for pickerel around this time of the year, and, you know, hopefully you guys can put them to good use out there. You know, we caught some good fish with some jerk baits, paddle tails, you know, maps. Those are like the main 3 artificials, and of course we use some live bait too. So get out there, catch them up, and if you guys have any more questions or anything, always feel welcome to send us a message. But you can also stop by the store and talk to us personally. So make sure you come by. Hopefully you guys liked the video. Leave us some questions in the comments or send us a message. You guys have a good one.